Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that, cuts through the noise to get you those essential, sometimes surprising insights. And today, wow, we're diving into something, well, it's as old as our fear of death, but as new as the latest AI. Humans have always wanted to cheat death, right? To leave something behind, to live on somehow. But now, with AI getting so advanced, it's less fantasy and more, well, tangible reality. Maybe even a bit unsettling. So today, we're doing a deep dive into digital immortality and this idea of persona emulation. Our goal here is to really unpack how these digital souls get built, look at the huge industry growing around them, it's billions apparently, and tackle the big questions, psychological, philosophical, legal, all of it. We get into some strange paradoxes, like technology promising forever, the whole uncanny valley thing, where something feels almost real, but just off. And why some experts worry this could actually cause a second loss for people grieving. It's definitely mind-bending stuff. Okay, let's get into it. Creating a digital version of a person. It really does sound like sci-fi. How do you even start building something like that? A digital soul?
Yeah, it's fascinating. It all boils down to data. Your data specifically, the quality, the sort of fidelity of any digital persona, whether it's for someone who's passed or a living digital twin, it's totally limited by the data you feed it. It's not magic, It's reconstruction, meticulous reconstruction from your digital footprint.
Okay, digital footprint. What does that actually mean? Is it just like my emails or?
Oh, it's way more than that. It's vast. Multimodal, as we say. So yeah, texts, emails, journals, social media, definitely, but also creative stuff, articles, books, maybe even code you've written, public records too, like interviews, speeches. And it's not just words. Audio is huge. Voicemails, podcasts, anything that captures how you sound, your prosody, tone, emotion, and visuals, of course. Photos, videos, facial expressions, body language, all of it. Some researchers, they talk about the ultimate goal being life logging.
Life logging.
Yeah, basically capturing everything a person sees, hears, says, creates. Gordon Bell and Jim Gray at Microsoft, they were talking decades ago about how storing every conversation was technically possible even then. And it even includes like implicit data, your browsing history, which apps you use, GPS, maybe even heart rate from your watch, sleep patterns. You analyze that whole tapestry and you can start to model personality, behavior. It's pretty detailed.
Wow, okay. The sheer amount of data,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of mind-boggling. But collecting all that, especially for someone still living, that sounds risky, doesn't it? Privacy, security.
Oh, absolutely. Huge risks. For a living person, a digital twin, yeah, you'd get a complete data set, potentially. But the privacy and security implications are severe. I mean, a data breach isn't just losing info. Someone called it a catastrophic violation of personal identity. So you hit this paradox, right? To make it really real, the tech needs all this intimate data. But ethics, security, they demand you minimize data collection. Getting that truly authentic digital twin requires a level of data surrender that's, well, some call it super disruptive. And the reality, unfortunately, is that any digital persona today, or probably in the near future, it's built on data that's incomplete, compromised, maybe biased. It's not just a tech problem. It's like a fundamental conflict baked into the whole idea right now.
Okay, so you've got this mountain of data, but how does the AI actually think or seem to think? How does it go from being a database to feeling like a person? Is it really thinking or just mimicking very well?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do you get beyond just a chatbot answering questions? It takes this really complex, modular setup, a cognitive core, let's call it. It has to replicate not just language, but memory, emotions, maybe even decision-making. The main engine is usually a large language model, an LLM. It gets fine-tuned really heavily on all that text data from the person. And that process, it basically bakes in their unique linguistic fingerprint.
Their style, their vocabulary, how they phrase things.
Exactly. Their humor, their quirks, all of it. And we're seeing this happen, like digitally resurrecting historical figures. There's Mary Sibley researchers used her diaries to train an AI, or commercial things like Project December, using models like GPT-2, GPT-3, trained on text users provide.
Okay, but you said LLMs aren't enough. They forget things, they make stuff up, hallucinate, right?
Right. LLMs alone have issues with long-term memory, consistency. They hallucinate. So for a coherent persona, you need more. You need a dual memory system.
Dual memory, like
Yeah.
facts and experiences.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. You need semantic memory. That's like the structured facts. I'm an engineer. My sister is Jane. A knowledge graph, basically. And then you need episodic memory. That's the personal stuff, specific experiences, conversations, stored over time. Like, remember that argument with John last Tuesday? There are research frameworks trying to integrate these, like Prime, Persona Agent, but even the best models, like GPT-4, still struggle with complex, episodic stuff.
That sounds incredibly complex just to get it to remember properly. What about feelings?
Oh, Lord.
Making choices. Can AI really fake that convincingly?
Well, for emotion, they use effective computing. The AI tries to read the user's emotion from text, voice, maybe face, and then generate a response that fits the persona's historical patterns. It's seen as key for making interactions feel, emotionally intelligent. And for decisions or actions, you use techniques like behavioral cloning, train the AI on how the person used to behave. But it has limits, big ones. There's this thing called covariate shift. Small errors can snowball. If the AI encounters something slightly new outside its training, it can just fail completely. Compound errors, the whole illusion shatters.
So it's all quite fragile then, this digital mind.
Very fragile, yeah. Putting all these pieces together, language, memory, emotion, behavior, it's a huge engineering challenge. The persona isn't one solid thing. It's more like a fragile confederation, as someone put it. If any one part glitches, the LLM hallucinates, memory fails, it misreads an emotion, the whole sense of a unified person can just break down. And that creates this really jarring feeling, right? Cognitive dissonance, glitches in the soul. It's much more uncanny than with a simple chatbot because, well, when it is working, it feels so real. The expectations are higher.
Right, so you have the data, this complex AI mind, but then how does it actually show up? Get a face, a voice. How close are we to that sort of sci-fi image?
Yeah, so to interact beyond just text, it needs that sensory shell, as we call it, voice cloning tech. It's scarily good now. Microsoft's VLE, apparently, can clone a voice from just 3 seconds of audio.
3 seconds.
3 seconds. And it keeps the tone, the emotion, even the room acoustics. And there are commercial services doing this too, like 11 Labs Resemble AI. It's accessible. Visually, we're seeing hyper-realistic 3D avatars now using things like diffusion models. They can generate complete, textured, posable avatars. Long-term, yeah, the vision is maybe full embodiment, a physical robot. But that's still way off. Huge challenges there.
And the more realistic these avatars get, the more we risk hitting that uncanny valley you mentioned earlier, right?
Yeah.
Where it's almost perfect, but something's wrong.
Exactly that. That's the core psychological hurdle. Even with super realistic avatars, the tiny flaws, a slightly weird expression, an odd pause in speech, one of those glitches in the soul from the AI brain, they get magnified. So what was meant to be comforting can actually become deeply unsettling. That push for perfect realism, it's a double-edged sword, really.
It's truly amazing tech. But who is actually building this stuff? And what's the motivation? Is it just research? Or is there a whole business side to it?
And that brings us right to the marketplace. Yeah, this theoretical idea of digital immortality has spawned a real industry, growing fast, too. People call it grief tech sometimes, or the digital afterlife industry. It was estimated, around $123 billion back in 2023, fueled by that basic human need for connection, plus AI getting better and better. You've got startups like Hereafter AI, Storyfile, Soul Machines, Project December, Replica, and the big tech players are interested. Microsoft patented a chatbot system based on personal data. Amazon looked into using a loved one's voice for Alexa. Meta's talked about it for the metaverse.
Okay, so it's becoming a product you can buy. What does digital immortality cost? Can anyone afford to, live on like this?
No, right now it's pretty expensive. The really advanced services can cost a lot. Eternos AI reportedly $15,000 for a posthumous avatar, and just 1 hour-long virtual meeting, maybe $1,000. Yeah, so it creates this pretty stark digital divide. Digital immortality could easily become a luxury for the wealthy, a whole new kind of inequality.
And with that kind of money involved, are there ethical worries about how these companies might deal with people who are grieving and vulnerable?
Big time, yeah. The profit motive, it can clash with the user's emotional state. Subscription models are common, and critics worry it's like commercial exploitation of grief.
Mm.
There are concerns about predatory practices, like
Mm-hmm.
designing the platform so you become dependent on the griefbots. You keep paying that monthly fee. The company's success could literally depend on the user not moving on, not finding closure.
Okay, so what are they actually selling then? Is it the full sci-fi dream, like a thinking, evolving digital copy? Or is it usually something simpler?
That's a really important distinction. It's not all the same. There's a huge range and definitely a gap between the marketing hype and what the tech can actually do right now. A lot of platforms are basically archival and retrieval. They don't create new stuff. They just give you an interactive way to access old memories. Like Hereafter AI, it records audio stories, then acts like a smart search engine. You ask something, it finds a relevant pre-recorded clip in the person's voice.
So more like an interactive biography.
Exactly. Or Storyfile, which does something similar but with video. They film someone answering thousands of questions, then retrieve the right video answer. Feels present, but it's all pre-scripted.
Okay, so that's one end. What's further along?
Then you have generative chatbots. These use LLMs to create new text responses on the fly. Project December is a key example here.
Wow.
Uses GPT models. It's genuinely generative, can be really personalized, but it's known for being, well, experimental. Unstable sometimes, can say disturbing things, and it has this weird dying bot feature at the end of a session that people find unsettling. Replica, too, though it's more of an AI companion now, it started as an attempt to recreate a lost friend. It learns from you, adapts its personality.
And the really ambitious stuff.
Mhm.
Avatars that seem alive.
Right. At the far end, you have embodied, emotionally simulated avatars. Companies like Soul Machines are trying to build digital people with a digital brain. They go beyond just text chat, try to simulate biological systems for autonomous animation, gestures, emotional expressions that fit the context. So what's the takeaway? Digital immortality is a label slapped on a lot of different things. Most of what's out there for consumers now. There's sophisticated archives, maybe interactive ones, not really thinking machines. They offer comfort, sure, but not that sci-fi consciousness.
Okay, given all that, and the fact that a lot of this relies on startups, are there big risks? Especially if they're selling forever.
Absolutely. Huge headwinds challenging that promise of permanence. It's the perpetuity paradox.
Yeah.
First, platform temporality. Most are startups. Startups often fail or get bought out, right? That's their model. Growth, acquisition, not necessarily sticking around forever. Tech history is full of failed companies. So trusting your precious memories to a platform like that, it's risky. They might just disappear.
Yeah, that's a major point. What happens to grandma's digital ghost if the company folds?
Exactly. Then there's technological obsolescence. What's cutting edge today looks ancient in 10 years. Remember, life not. An early project seems clunky now, so can you move the data? Is it future-proof? Without clear standards, your digital legacy could get trapped in an old proprietary system. Lost. We also see a mismatch with user needs. Some founders talk about eliminating grief, but research shows many potential users are hesitant. Privacy concerns, lack of trust, conflicts with religious or cultural beliefs about death. The tech push might not align with what society actually wants or is comfortable with. And this brings us back to that really painful idea, the second loss.
Right.
People form real emotional bonds with these things, especially when grieving. But then the company fails or the tech gets old or you can't afford the subscription anymore, access is cut off, that's the second loss. You grieve again. But this time, it's this weird technologically induced trauma. The digital thing you outsourced your memories and emotions to just vanishes.
That sounds incredibly rough. So what are the wider psychological effects of using these grief technologies? Does it actually help people heal? Or could it make things worse?
Yeah, it throws a whole new element into mourning, doesn't it? And it's complex. It could potentially help, but there are real risks. On the plus side, some studies show web-based grief tools can help reduce anxiety, depression, PTSD symptoms. They're accessible, affordable, anonymous. An AI chatbot could offer 24/7 support, be a non-judgmental listener, maybe guide you to coping strategies, complementary support,
That sounds potentially really valuable for someone feeling isolated, but what's the dark side?
The big worry is prolonged or complicated grief. If you keep interacting with a digital replica, it might stop you from going through the natural grieving process. You get stuck in denial, can't reach closure. It can lead to unhealthy attachments, maladaptive coping. This idea of affective outsourcing, you let the machine handle your emotions, which might actually stunt your own psychological growth.
And what about memories? Could talking to an AI version change how you remember the actual person?
That's another major concern. Identity dissonance and memory distortion. The AI is based on incomplete data, right? So we'll act inconsistently, sometimes glitches, that's jarring. But maybe more subtly, the simulated interactions could start to overwrite or change your real memories. You end up replacing this complex human legacy with a simpler, maybe distorted algorithmic version. And these risks, they're way higher for kids. Children are much more likely to see AI as human, form deep bonds, not grasp it's artificial. Experts urge extreme caution using these for kids who've lost a parent. Could lead to really complex, long-term grief issues.
So it's like these grief bots are trapped in their own therapeutic uncanny valley, too. Good enough to seem real and get you attached, but not actually equipped to help you heal.
That's a perfect way to put it. Yeah, they can mimic empathy, personality, draw in someone vulnerable, but they aren't sophisticated enough and, frankly, aren't designed to manage that attachment responsibly. Their failures aren't just bugs, they're potential psychological injuries. Remember, the goal of grief therapy is healing. The goal of a commercial platform is user retention, keep you subscribed. The tech mimics support, pulls you in, but it lacks the genuine understanding or ethics to guide you through grief. It risks trapping you in it.
Moving beyond grief,
Mm-hmm.
what does creating these digital copies say about us? About identity itself? What does it mean to be you?
Yeah, that's where it gets really fundamental. What is identity? And it's important here to separate persona emulation mimicking personality from data, which is what we have now from the sci-fi idea of mind uploading, like scanning your brain to transfer consciousness. Mind uploading tackles the hard problem of consciousness. How does physical stuff create subjective experience? Can consciousness exist without biology? Some say yes, others say no. An upload would just be a philosophical zombie.
Right, a philosophical zombie,
Hmm.
meaning it acts conscious, talks conscious, but there's no actual inner feeling or experience. Like the lights are on, but nobody's home.
Exactly, that's the idea. A perfect mimic, but hollow inside. It's a huge philosophical debate. But sticking with emulation, the big question is authenticity. Is the digital version really the person? The general feeling, even from people who use these things, is no. It's a simulation, an echo, not them. One user talking on a bot of her deceased mother called it spooky, strangely realistic. But she knew it wasn't her mom. And this leads to a digital version of that old paradox, the ship of Theseus. If you replace every plank on a ship, is it still the same ship? As the AI learns and changes, going beyond its original data, when does it stop being the person it represents and becomes something new, something else? That tension between the real and the simulated feeds into that uncanny valley of identity. An AI that's almost human, but not quite, can be more disturbing than one that's obviously just a machine.
And this whole quest for digital immortality, even just an echo, it feels like it connects to a bigger philosophical movement, doesn't it?
Yeah. It absolutely does. It's central to transhumanism. That's the movement that wants to use science and tech to overcome human limits, including death. Many transhumanists hope we can eventually create non-biological copies of our brains, our consciousness. You see projects like the 2045 Initiative aiming for this. But even within transhumanism, there's debate. You have optimists like Ray Kurzweil, but also skeptics who doubt true consciousness, with all its qualitative feelings, can really be replicated digitally. Some neuroscientists just call it a pipe dream.
The tech is moving so fast, but you mentioned the law.
Yeah.
It usually lags behind. How are we governing this?
Yeah.
Especially things like privacy after death.
You hit the nail on the head. The tech has sprinted ahead, and the law is still tying its shoelaces. It's a messy, inconsistent picture globally. There's a real legal vacuum, especially in the U.S. No federal law really gives you privacy rights after you die. Privacy is seen as personal. It dies with you. So it often defaults to property law. The EU's GDPR explicitly says it doesn't cover data of the deceased, though some countries, like France, have passed laws letting people leave instructions for their digital data.
So if the law is unclear, who decides what happens to your digital self after you're gone?
Increasingly, it's the tech companies themselves. Their terms of service become the default rules. They offer things like memorialization for accounts or legacy contacts. And this creates what's called jurisdictional chaos. Think about it. A digital persona might be built in one country, using data stored in another, representing someone who died in a third place, and accessed by people all over the world. There's no international agreement on the legal status of these personas or their data. Companies could potentially jurisdiction shop, look for places with weak regulations.
Okay, beyond the law, what about the ethics? Just the act of creating one of these digital people seems ethically loaded.
Deeply loaded. Yes. Several key things jump out. Consent has to be number one. It needs to be explicit, informed, really specific. And for posthumous ones, you need posthumous consent. Making a digital copy of someone without their clear permission beforehand. That feels like a profound ethical violation. Your right to control your identity shouldn't just vanish when you die.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What else? What about the data used to build them?
Well, there's bias and discrimination. AI models aren't neutral. They learn from the data they're fed, and they reflect the values of the people who built them. If someone's digital footprint contains societal biases, racism, sexism, whatever, AI will learn those, replicate them, maybe even amplify them. You could end up with these awful discriminatory caricatures. And then massive security risks. All that comprehensive data, text, audio, video, biometrics, it's a treasure trove for bad actors. A breach could be catastrophic. Think sophisticated identity theft, fraud, creating deepfakes for blackmail or disinformation. Ethicists even warn that info shared in grief could be weaponized, used to haunt the living through things like hyper-targeted ads. Protecting this data isn't just good practice, it's a massive ethical duty.
Can you give an example where these ethical issues really come to the forefront, maybe with famous people or historical figures?
Yeah, resurrecting historical figures is a great case study. There's the academic Mary Sibley project. Researchers trained in AI on her diaries. They worked closely with historians, archivists to ensure authenticity. It shows the huge educational potential. Imagine engaging with history that dynamically.
That sounds really positive, using it for education. But there's a commercial angle too, isn't there?
Oh, definitely. Think about the holographic Tupac Shakur performance or using CGI to bring Peter Cushing back for Rogue One. Those are driven by profit, entertainment, and they raise different questions. What about the dignity of the deceased? What did their family or estate want? Where's the line between a tribute and just exploitation? Commercial projects might prioritize spectacle over accuracy, right? You risk creating these distorted digital puppets instead of authentic representations.
Wow. What a journey.
Yeah.
We've really covered how digital immortality, this sci-fi idea, is actually starting to happen, creating this whole ecosystem, amazing potential, but also some really deep challenges.
Yeah, stepping back, you see these fundamental tensions everywhere, don't you? The gap between the tech dreams and what companies are actually selling. That perpetuity paradox, an industry selling forever built on companies that might not last. The therapeutic uncanny valley where tech meant to help grief might actually harm. And just the legal mess, the jurisdictional chaos around our digital remains.
So what's the bottom line for us, for you listening to this, trying to make sense of it all?
Well, the path ahead is definitely tricky, but not impossible. The key is we need a really deliberate, cross-disciplinary approach. We can't just leave this to the tech companies in the market. We need ongoing, serious conversations involving AI researchers, ethicists, lawyers, psychologists, sociologists, policymakers, everyone. We need to figure out robust guidelines for how this is governed, for consent, for what digital personhood even means.
And you, the listener, you have a part to play too, right? Just understanding this stuff, digital literacy is huge. Knowing how the tech works, what data it uses, the ethical flags, and maybe most practically, think about digital estate planning, digital wills, directives, stating clearly what you want done with your online accounts, your digital legacy. That kind of proactive step is probably the most powerful tool any of us have right now to control our own digital afterlife.
Absolutely. Look, the desire to cheat death digitally, it taps into something ancient and powerful in us. This tech offers a glimpse, a tantalizing one, of a future where maybe knowledge, experience, connection could last beyond our biology. And it's a big, but without really careful thought, without proactive rules, without a deep commitment to human values. This digital afterlife could become a real mess. Challenges to our identity, our society, our whole understanding of life and death. Creating a digital soul. It's not just a tech puzzle to solve, it's a profound societal project. And it needs our collective wisdom, our ethical courage to get it right.